Hold on to your seats, because what's about to spill out is being whispered as the most explosive celebrity revelation Hollywood has never wanted you to hear. Screens are freezing. Group chats are melting down. Phones are buzzing non-stop as a single voice threatens to rip the curtain off an industry built on secrets, silence, and carefully manufactured perfection. This isn't just gossip. This isn't just drama. This is the kind of story that changes reputations overnight and leaves careers hanging by a thread. An acclaimed rising actor, once praised for his calm, controlled image, has allegedly reached a breaking point. After months of disappearing from red carpets, dodging interviews, and sparking rumors about his health, he's finally speaking. And what he's hinting at is darker than anyone imagined. A private relationship. A trusted partner. A betrayal so devastating it allegedly rewrote his entire future. Insiders say there are screenshots, voice notes, medical paperwork that was never supposed to leave a locked drawer. And now, it's all threatening to come out. Meanwhile, the woman at the center of the storm, an untouchable superstar with a flawless public image, is allegedly scrambling behind the scenes. Emergency calls. Lawyers on standby. Entire teams working overtime to contain what insiders are calling a career-ending implosion. Fans are already picking sides, timelines are being dissected frame by frame, and cryptic tweets are being interpreted like coded confessions. But here's the part that should terrify everyone: this isn't being framed as a rumor anymore. It's being framed as a warning. And if even half of what's about to be revealed is true, Hollywood is standing on the edge of its most dangerous reckoning yet. The silence didn't break quietly. It shattered. One moment, the industry was spinning as usual, premieres, endorsements, carefully curated smiles, and the next, a single anonymous drop detonated across private group chats like a grenade with the pin already pulled. A blurred screenshot. A time-stamp. A single line of text that read, "I didn't consent to this." No context. No names. Just enough to make everyone panic. Within minutes, insiders knew exactly who it pointed to. A rising male star, once everywhere, now suddenly absent. No late-night appearances. No press junkets. No red carpets. His disappearance had been explained away as creative burnout, but those closest to him say that explanation was a lie agreed upon in a locked room with shaking hands. Behind the scenes, his life was allegedly collapsing in slow motion. Medical appointments stacked on top of each other. Calls taken in stairwells. Panic attacks that hit without warning. And all of it, according to whispers, traced back to one relationship he thought would be safe. She was untouchable. That's the word everyone uses. A powerhouse performer with a carefully protected image, talent, beauty, charisma wrapped in a brand so polished it felt bulletproof. Every move choreographed. Every interview flawless. The kind of celebrity studios bend over backwards to protect. And allegedly, the kind of person no one ever expects to be at the center of something this dark. The first cracks appeared when fans noticed he unfollowed her. Then blocked her. Then wiped entire years of photos from his page. At first, it was dismissed as a messy breakup. But then came the subtweets. Cryptic lines about truth being buried by money. About silence being forced. About surviving something you didn't choose. Each post deleted within minutes, but not before screenshots spread like wildfire. Behind closed doors, the confrontation was reportedly explosive. Sources claim he demanded answers after his health began to deteriorate, fatigue that wouldn't go away, unexplained symptoms, tests that came back with results he wasn't prepared to see. When he confronted her, the room allegedly went silent. No denial. Just deflection. Just anger. Just a chilling attempt to flip the narrative. He was accused of betrayal for even asking, of paranoia, of threatening her career simply by questioning what she may have known. That's when the alleged messages surfaced. A private thread between her and an unnamed confidant, leaked by someone who claims they couldn't live with it anymore. The texts were vague but damning. Mentions of not telling him yet. Jokes about people never checking until it's too late. A voice note, distorted but unmistakably hers, laughing nervously and saying, "It'll blow over." They always do. The internet froze. Within hours, the cleanup began. Posts vanished. PR teams issued vague statements about false narratives and deeply invasive speculation. But the damage was already done. Fans started pulling old interviews, slowing down clips, rewatching moments that once felt harmless. A red carpet hug that now looked stiff. A laugh that suddenly sounded forced. A comment about trust that aged like milk. Then came the industry panic. Allegedly, executives started making calls, not to investigate, but to assess exposure. Who had been close? Who had shared spaces? Who might talk next? NDAs were quietly referenced. Old settlements were allegedly dusted off. One insider claimed a studio shelved an entire project overnight, just to avoid proximity to the storm. The male star, meanwhile, was unraveling. Friends say he barely slept. That he oscillated between rage and numbness. That he recorded a video statement at 3 in the morning, deleted it, recorded another, then smashed his phone against a wall. He wasn't just grappling with betrayal, he was grappling with the realization that speaking out could destroy him faster than staying silent ever could. Social media turned into a war zone. Hashtags trended without names attached, but everyone knew. Fans split into camps, defending, attacking, speculating. Some accused him of clout chasing. Others begged him to speak, calling him brave for even hinting at the truth. A viral clip surfaced of her on an old podcast saying, "People don't need to know everything about you." That sentence alone racked up millions of views, dissected like a confession. And then, late one night, a new leak dropped. An audio recording. Short. Raw. Recorded during what insiders claim was their final confrontation. His voice cracked, asking one question over and over again. "When were you going to tell me?" Her response was barely audible, but unmistakably cold. "You're overreacting. Don't do this." That was the moment the narrative shifted. This was no longer just about a breakup. This was about power. About silence. About how easily truth can be buried when fame is involved. Industry insiders began quietly admitting what they'd never say publicly. This wasn't the first time they'd heard whispers like this. Just the first time someone on his level seemed ready to burn everything down. And as the audio continued to spread, one final detail emerged that sent shockwaves through Hollywood. According to the source who leaked it, this wasn't the only recording. There were more. And the next one, they claimed, involved another name, bigger, untouchable, and completely unprepared for what was about to surface. By morning, the industry wasn't whispering anymore. It was spiraling. Phones rang non-stop in gated offices where decisions are usually made in silence. Publicists cancelled vacations. Lawyers postponed trials. And somewhere between a trending hashtag and a leaked audio clip, the story crossed an invisible line from scandal to full-blown catastrophe. The unnamed actor was no longer just a victim in the court of public opinion. He was a threat. What made it worse was the timing. Just hours after the audio leak went viral, he was spotted entering a private medical facility through a side entrance, hood up, jaw clenched, eyes hollow. Paparazzi photos exploded online within minutes. Fans zoomed in on every detail. The wristband. The escort. The look on his face that said this was not a routine visit. Social media erupted with speculation, so intense it drowned out every official statement trying to calm the chaos. Behind the scenes, the superstar at the center of it all allegedly went into full damage control mode. Emergency meetings. Crisis managers flown in from other states. Sources say she locked herself inside her home for 2 straight days, refusing to take calls from anyone except her legal team. When she finally spoke, it wasn't to deny anything. It was to accuse. To shift blame. To quietly plant stories suggesting he was unstable, spiraling, unreliable. The narrative was being rewritten in real time, and it was ruthless. Then came the second leak. This one didn't come from a burner account, or an anonymous Dropbox. It came from someone claiming to be part of her inner circle. The message was short, chilling, and devastating. You don't know the half of it. Attached were screenshots of calendar entries, dates lining up with moments the public thought everything was perfect. Red carpets. Award shows. Magazine covers. All overlapping with private appointments and hushed conversations that told a very different story. The most explosive screenshot showed a message sent months before the actor's symptoms allegedly began. It read, "He doesn't ask questions. That's why this works." No emojis. No context. Just enough to make the internet implode. Fans who once defended her without hesitation started to fracture. Comment sections turned hostile. Fan pages went dark. Others rebranded overnight, pretending they'd never supported her at all. Meanwhile, the actor's following surged, not with celebration, but with concern. People weren't praising him. They were begging him to stop before he destroyed himself. Sources say he was conflicted. Terrified, even. On one hand, he wanted justice. On the other, he was being warned repeatedly that continuing could end his career permanently. One insider claims a powerful executive told him, "You don't win this. You just survive it." That warning reportedly sent him into a breakdown, so severe his friends considered checking him into a facility against his will. But the pressure only intensified when a third name entered the conversation. A-list. Global. Untouchable. A man whose reputation had survived decades of rumors without a scratch. His name began trending late one night after fans connected dots between old interviews, overlapping timelines, and a cryptic post he'd made years earlier about trust being a dangerous illusion. It was vague. But in this climate, vagueness was gasoline. Suddenly, the story wasn't contained anymore. It wasn't about one relationship, or one betrayal. It was about a pattern. A system. An unspoken understanding that certain people are protected no matter the cost. Industry insiders began anonymously admitting that they'd heard rumors before, but were told to ignore them. That raising concerns would be career suicide. That silence was the price of access. The actor allegedly recorded another statement during this time. This one longer. Calmer. More deliberate. In it, he didn't name names. He didn't accuse directly. He simply said, "If I stay quiet, I'm complicit. And I won't be that." Those words alone were enough to send shockwaves through Hollywood. Studios reportedly froze contracts. Brands paused campaigns. No one knew which way this would break, and no one wanted to be caught on the wrong side. Meanwhile, her camp allegedly prepared a counterstrike. A carefully crafted leak painting him as obsessive, as manipulative, as someone trying to rewrite history after being rejected. Old texts were selectively released. Context stripped away. A narrative pushed that he was confused, emotional, lashing out. It worked on some people. Enough to keep the chaos alive. But then came the moment no one could spin. A close friend of the actor went live unexpectedly. No warning. No filter. Tears streaming, voice shaking, saying they'd watched him deteriorate in real time. That they'd driven him to appointments. That they'd begged him to speak sooner. This isn't revenge, the friend said. This is survival. The live ended abruptly, but the clip was already everywhere. Within hours, lawmakers, health advocates, and legal analysts were weighing in, not on the specifics, but on the implications. On what happens when power silences accountability. On how many stories never make it this far. The conversation had shifted again, and this time, there was no putting it back in a box. Late that night, just when it seemed like everything had already burned, a new rumor surfaced. According to multiple sources, the actor was considering releasing everything. Not just audio. Not just texts. Everything. Names. Dates. Proof. And the final twist. One of the recordings allegedly captured a conversation, where she admitted she wasn't the only one who knew. As that rumor spread, one question echoed across every platform, every studio, every group chat in Hollywood: if he presses play, who else goes down with her? By the time the sun came up, Hollywood felt hollowed out. The kind of quiet that only follows devastation. No premieres. No cheerful press junkets. Just silence punctuated by frantic back-channel calls, and private jets being fueled for reasons no one would explain. Everyone knew the same thing. The actor hadn't spoken yet, but the countdown had started. According to multiple insiders, he spent that night alone, sitting on the floor of his living room with boxes spread around him like evidence in a trial he never asked for. Old phones. Hard drives. Email printouts. Medical paperwork. Items he'd hidden from himself, because acknowledging them meant accepting that his life had already split in two. Friends say he kept replaying one question out loud, as if saying it enough times would change the answer. How long did they all know? Because that was the final twist no one saw coming. This was never just about one person. A new leak surfaced mid-morning, this time from an encrypted forum frequented by industry insiders, who trade secrets like currency. The post was brief but lethal. It claimed that at least 3 powerful figures were aware of the situation long before the actor ever suspected anything was wrong. Managers. Executives. People who shook his hand, praised his work, toasted his success, all while allegedly knowing the truth. The implication was clear. Silence wasn't accidental. It was strategic. Social media detonated again, but this time the tone shifted. It wasn't fandom chaos anymore. It was fury. Fans weren't arguing about loyalty, they were demanding accountability. Old clips resurfaced of award speeches praising family and integrity, now dripping with irony. Memes turned savage. Influencers who'd stayed neutral suddenly picked sides, afraid that silence itself would become a liability. Her camp reportedly collapsed under the pressure. One source claimed a senior advisor quit on the spot after learning what evidence might exist. Another claimed insurers were scrambling to assess exposure, quietly calculating how much damage a single confession could do. And still, she remained silent. No denial. No apology. Just absence. The kind that screams louder than any statement ever could. Then came the final leak before everything changed. A transcript. Allegedly pulled from a recorded conversation between her and a third party months before the actor's health crisis became undeniable. The words were clinical. Detached. terrifying in their calm. She allegedly said, "He'll be fine. They always are. And if not, it's not on me." The internet recoiled. That line alone was enough to turn public opinion irreversibly. Health advocates spoke out, not about the individuals involved, but about the danger of power protecting recklessness. Legal experts explained potential consequences without naming names. Every explanation felt like a countdown ticking closer to zero. Because now, it wasn't just about what happened. It was about who allowed it to happen. The actor finally broke his silence that evening, not with a video, but with a single written statement posted without comments enabled. It didn't accuse. It didn't threaten. It simply said he was done protecting people who never protected him. He wrote about trust being weaponized. About silence being enforced. About how fame can turn harm into an inconvenience instead of a crisis. And then he ended with one sentence that froze the internet solid: "Tomorrow, I tell the rest." Studios reportedly went into emergency meetings that lasted until dawn. Projects were paused indefinitely. Contracts rewritten. Entire campaigns scrapped overnight. One insider said it felt like watching dominoes lined up for years finally start to fall. No one knew how many would go down, only that stopping it was no longer an option. The next morning, before he could release anything else, rumors exploded that he'd been offered a settlement so massive it bordered on absurd. Generational money. Lifetime security. Total silence. Sources say he didn't even counter. He allegedly laughed, then asked one question: "Does it come with my life back?" By then, the public had already decided. This wasn't gossip anymore. This was a reckoning. People weren't watching for entertainment. They were watching to see whether the machine that protects power would finally crack. Whether one voice could force an entire system to confront what it buries. As the clock ticked closer to his promised release, one last detail surfaced that sent chills through even the most cynical observers. According to someone who'd seen the full archive, the final recording didn't focus on betrayal or blame. It focused on fear. On how many people were at risk. On how easily it all could have continued if he hadn't gotten sick enough to ask questions. That was the moment the story stopped being about celebrities at all. It became about truth versus comfort. About whether silence is easier than justice. About how many times this has happened before, and how many times it almost happened again. And as millions refreshed their feeds, waiting for whatever came next, one thing was undeniable. After this, nothing in Hollywood would ever feel untouchable again. If you've made it this far, understand this clearly: walking away now means missing the moment everyone will be talking about tomorrow. Stories like this don't just disappear, they get buried when people stop paying attention. And attention is the one thing that decides whether truth survives or gets silenced again. Right now, the internet is choosing sides. Clips are being deleted. Narratives are being rewritten in real time. And the only reason this story is still breathing is because people like you are watching, listening, and refusing to look away. This isn't just content anymore. It's a pressure test. On power. On silence. On who gets protected and who gets erased. If you believe stories like this deserve daylight, you need to act. Hit like so this doesn't get quietly pushed out of the algorithm. Drop a comment, say anything, because every comment keeps this conversation alive. And subscribe, because what comes next won't be summarized anywhere else. When the next leak drops, when the next name surfaces, when the next twist hits, this is where it will break first. Don't assume someone